Welcome back, folks, to WrestleRant. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and today on WrestleRant, we're breaking down the April 7th, 2014 edition of Monday Night Raw, the post-WrestleMania Raw from WrestleMania 30. And we've been breaking down these post-WrestleMania Raws for a couple of episodes here on WrestleRant over the last week and a half. The 2012 episode of Raw from post-WrestleMania 28 went up about a week and a half ago. Post-WrestleMania 2013 went up over the weekend. And today we're breaking down the post-WrestleMania Raw from 2014. 2015 goes up on Saturday. Now, my voice is shot for this video. I apologize. I'm recording this less than 24 hours removed from NXT TakeOver on Friday. This isn't going up until, mid next week or mid Wednesday, whatever, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. So I have not yet watched, obviously, as of this recording, the post-WrestleMania Raw for this year. And maybe as of that recording, maybe as of then, as of by the time this goes up, that will be my favorite post-WrestleMania Raw. But as of right now, as of the time I'm recording this, this was my favorite post-WrestleMania Raw. For everything it included, in my personal opinion, not only my favorite post-WrestleMania Raw, but one of, if not my favorite Raw of all time. I mean, that's also including the Raw that I was at later on that year in June that I was in attendance for. One of the greatest Raws of that year, just being there, I was very fortunate to be there in attendance for that and live and in person. But this show I thought was perfect. Start to finish, everything that it included exceeded my expectations and really set the stage for what would be a very memorable or noteworthy rest of 2014. But at the very least, let's kick off the show here with the opening segment. Daniel Bryan, fresh off his WWE World Heavyweight Championship victory at WrestleMania 30, comes out. And the opening segments of every single Raw from the post-WrestleMania Raws, it seemed like, are always exciting. I mean, as they should be. But it's no, typical Raw like we're kind of used to nowadays with the Authority coming out and like, blah, blah, blah. This happened to WrestleMania, that happened to WrestleMania. We always get some exciting segment of some sort. In 2012, it was The Rock promising that he was going after the WWE Championship later on down the line. In 2013, it was the new WWE Champion John Cena, and that set up the match for later on that night with Mark Henry. On this show, it was the new WWE Champion Daniel Bryan. And in 2015, it was Brock Lesnar challenging Seth Rollins to a fight, which we'll talk about on Saturday. But Daniel Bryan comes out. He stands in the ring for at least 2 or 3 minutes before he can finally speak, as he's getting drowned out by "Thank you, Daniel Bryan," or "Yes" chants from the crowd. It was amazing. The "You Deserve a" chants, I think, was the loudest of them all. It just absolutely amazing. What a reaction. Daniel Bryan. I mean, the same Raw, technically, that 2 years earlier, the "Yes" chant made its debut on, or technically WrestleMania, but you know what I mean, around that same time. And then 2 years later, it was the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. So he talks about the win. Doesn't really sell the injuries from the night before, but that's merely nitpicking. Out comes Triple H and Stephanie. Triple H says, "You won't be holding that championship for long, because tonight you're defending that championship in the main event against me." So a WrestleMania rematch promised for the main event for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Awesome stuff. After that, we have 6-man tag team action. The Wyatt family taking on John Cena. Then Intercontinental Champion Big E and Sheamus. Pretty good 6-man. Obviously, the crowd siding with the Wyatt family. And this is where the John Cena sucks chants made their debut, I'm pretty sure. And that was fucking hilarious. It seems like in every post-WrestleMania Raw that we get a chant of some sort making its debut. In 2012, it was the Yes chant. In 2013, it was the fandangoing. Not really a chant, but you know what I mean. I mean, the humming of the theme song. 2014, it was "Got the Whole World in Your Hands" for Wyatt family. That started on the show as well. And the John Cena sucks chants, which were glorious. And then in 2015, it was Suplex City. So amazing stuff start to finish. Really good stuff here. Really good match. The Wyatt family working over the baby faces, scoring the victory. Not too much making up for the Wyatt family loss at WrestleMania, but it did further the feud between Cena and Wyatt, and that was about it. So a good opening 6-man tag team match. And this was really the only filler of the show. A lot like I talked about in the 2013 post-WrestleMania Raw, we had that random-ass 6-man tag team match with Santino, Ryder, and R-Truth against 3MB. This was something similar. Santino teamed up with Emma against Fandango and Summer Rae. And it served the purpose in the sense that 1 year earlier, Fandango was the most over guy in the entire show. So they tried to revisit that, and he got a big reaction when he came out. They didn't really care for Santino. Emma, people were doing the Emma dance, but one thing that really stood out for me from this match, from the entrances anyway, was that they came out to Santino's theme and not Emma's theme. And if any crowd's going to go crazy for the Emma dance, or at least at this point in time, or at least at that point in time anyway, because now, I mean, Emma's heel, and she's come a long way since then, they would have done the Emma dance. I mean, it wasn't really getting over in the first few months of the year because WWE didn't really package it properly, didn't really treat it as a cool thing. They kind of made it uncool and kind of shoving it down our throats or not really spotlighting it the way that it deserved to be, whatever. They came out to Santino's theme. So the match was whatever. Kind of a sad reminder that how far he had fallen in the matter of a year. Not really how far he's fallen in the past year or 2 years since then. I mean, he was at least on TV at that point in time. 2 years later, the guy's not even on TV, by and large. But anyway, fine tag team match for what it was. Didn't really mind it. The whole Emma and Santino pairing, by the way, was a total fucking disaster. Real backfire there. That was a total waste of Emma. Santino retired that summer anyway. And thankfully, Emma has since rebounded with her heel turn, but it took a while. So anyway, after that, we had Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar come out less than 24 hours from the streak being broken at the hands of the Beast Incarnate. 21-1 at WrestleMania 30. Brock Lesnar beating The Undertaker. And we were all sad, most of us anyway, I believe, were sad to see the streak get broken. But the one takeaway from that, from that all happening, from the streak getting broken, the one saving grace was that we knew that we were going to get a glorious promo the next night on Raw from Paul Heyman, and he did not disappoint. Talking about he put the 1 in 21-1. Randy Orton couldn't do it. Not John Cena. Batista couldn't do it. Triple H couldn't do it. Shawn Michaels couldn't do it. Triple H couldn't do it because they're all wannabes. Great line, and I'm just laughing my ass off this entire promo because it's so fucking good, so fucking gold. Just amazing stuff about breaking the streak from Paul Heyman. Brock Lesnar not having to say a single goddamn word, just standing there laughing it off, not giving a shit that he broke the streak at all. Not really giving an idea of what's next for Brock Lesnar. He wouldn't resurface for another 3 more months before going after the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. So he was gone for a while, but still an amazing promo, and personally, one of my personal favorite bests, one of my personal favorite promos from Paul Heyman since coming back to the WWE. After that, we had a tag team championship match. The Usos defending against Randy Orton and Batista, who both demanded shots at the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, but were instead granted a shot at the WWE tag team titles against the Usos at the behest of the Authority. The match didn't last too long. The crowd tried to crap all over it, a la Orton and Sheamus from the year before. Orton just never gets any luck from this shit. He gets no love whatsoever from the post-WrestleMania crowd, it seems like. And just any match that he's involved in, the crowd shits all over. That was the case last year, too. I don't know if it's the case this year. I don't even know if he's going to be back this year in time for the post-WrestleMania Raw. I feel like he might be. You guys know better than I would because I'm recording this beforehand. But he gets no love traditionally shown by the post-WrestleMania crowds. So the match did not last long, ended in a double countout. Batista and Orton just beating the shit out of the Usos at ringside, kind of diminishing the tag team titles a little bit. They kind of showed, and not really caring about the tag team titles, Orton and Batista, that is, kind of showing or sending the message that the tag team titles don't mean anything, or, whatever. But the match was whatever. The match was fine for what it was. After that, we had Damien Sandow taking on the returning Rob Van Dam. Great to see RVD back and a nice showing against Damien Sandow. Pretty decent match. RVD picks up the victory. Loud pop from the post-WrestleMania crowd that, traditionally chants his name on these post-WrestleMania Raws, so worked out perfectly. They didn't do much with RVD during the run with the company. This run with the company, he was kind of utilized as a jobber by and large. It's still a fine match and a good way to reintroduce RVD to the WWE fold. After that, Rey Mysterio coming out in what would end up being his last WWE match, believe it or not. I don't know if he got hurt or something like that, but he never wrestled a match in WWE after this, unfortunately. Not really getting the send-off or final farewell or, fond farewell that he deserved, in my opinion, but be that as it may. Coming out as his opponent, Bad News Barrett, making his in-ring re-debut, having not wrestled a match in, I don't know, many, many months. I don't think since, August. Barrett returned to WWE TV that December as Bad News Barrett, not wrestling a match, only talking and doing, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. And that was it. Never wrestled a match. I was really disappointed he wasn't in the Battle Royal at WrestleMania. It would make sense to reintroduce him in this show and instead, because Cesaro won that Battle Royal. I'm thinking, why the fuck wasn't Bad News Barrett in the Battle Royal at WrestleMania? But I'm glad they held off and they saved it for this show, having a good match with Rey Mysterio, picking up a big victory. And this, in my opinion, other than when he was in the Nexus, was when Barrett was at his hottest. When he came back, he got a big pop from the post-WrestleMania crowd. Obviously, a lot of people from the UK, England over there on that show. Going on to win the IC Championship Tournament, going on to beat Big E for the Intercontinental Championship, going on to have a 2-month reign as IC Champion before getting hurt. Now, I don't know if they really had many plans in mind for Barrett, before he got hurt. I don't think he was going to win the briefcase or anything because he got hurt right before the Money in the Bank ladder match. But by the time he came back many months later, they dropped the ball on him, and he was still over. When he came back on the, I think the final Raw of 2014, got a big reaction, but they went on to give him the IC title, which was kind of a step in the wrong direction because he had already held that championship 4 times before, and most of his reigns were shit. They booked him so awfully. They really could have just turned him babyface. That's another rant for another day, but in regards to this match, it was great to see Barrett back and getting a very well-deserved reaction. Great reaction, big pop from the post-WrestleMania audience. Alexander Rusev, as he was called at that time, taking on Zack Ryder. This was Rusev's Raw debut match. He technically debuted in the Rumble match, but they took him off TV for a while, and I thought they were a lot like Barrett, going to save him for the Battle Royal. That was not the case, and it ended up working out for the better and reintroducing him here on this Raw. Rusev going on to beat Zack Ryder, quick squash match. And in 1 year's time, going from beating Zack Ryder on Raw to facing John Cena almost exactly 1 year later at WrestleMania for the U.S. Championship. So they really built him up very well. The aftermath, the follow-up was awful, obviously, if the last year has been any indication. But this was a good re-debut for Alexander Rusev, or later shortened to just Rusev. I also forgot to mention this as well. We got vignettes throughout the night for Bo Dallas and Adam Rose coming to Monday Night Raw. So it was so great to see, have that breath of fresh air of, fresh blood, new faces, fresh faces on Monday Night Raw in the forms of Adam Rose, Rusev, and Bo Dallas, and another person who I'll talk about momentarily. It was great to see that. Bo Dallas had been long overdue for a main roster call-up. Rusev, I thought, they had, strong plans for him. They had, a lot in mind for him, so it came as no surprise they called him up when they did. And Adam Rose was the biggest shock of them all, just because he had just re-debuted in NXT a month earlier. And maybe just based off the reaction that he got from the crowd that one time that he came back to NXT with that awesome fucking gimmick. And then they didn't really flesh out the character enough that it really warranted a main roster call-up, because he hasn't done anything. He came up, flopped like a fish, and he hasn't done anything since. So kind of a waste. But at that time anyway, it was exciting to see the Exotic Express on Monday Night Raw. So following that, we had the Ultimate Warrior coming out, making his first Raw appearance in nearly 18 years. So excited when they announced that earlier on in the day on WWE.com that the Warrior was coming to Raw. I basically thought at that time that it was a nice little plug for the WWE Hall of Fame. He was the headliner of that year's class, and it was airing that night after Raw, which was overkill. I mean, they aired as they always do, as they have for the last couple of years. They aired the thing in its entirety, the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony, in its entirety on the WWE Network that Saturday. But they usually air the 1 hour special on USA Network. But usually they wait until like the Tuesday or the Wednesday to do it. To do it, an hour after Raw, after having sat through 3 hours of Raw already, was overkill, like I said. But anyway, so Warrior comes out and cuts what would be, and I talked about Rey Mysterio, the last match of his WWE career, the last real appearance, mainstream appearance, promo, anything of Warrior's life, having passed away the next night, unexpectedly, and I was, devastated by that, and having him be one of my, biggest inspirations of all time. But, cutting a very passionate speech about having the Warrior spirit run through the, the fans and the minds of everyone in the back. Now, they were future legends, and he was going to pass the torch to them, and they were the storytellers. You got to see it, to appreciate it. I can't really do it justice by talking about it here. But the promo itself, very, very eerie of what was to come. I don't buy into the belief that he knew that he was going to die or anything like that. I feel like everything happens for a reason. It was just, very odd, strange, and scary timing with what happened the next day. But what a promo. Just watching. I mean, I loved it then. It was so great to see Warrior come out, and I was really hoping he would come out and run out to the ring with a face paint. Obviously, that was not possible. He was not in the best of health, having passed away the next day due to a heart attack. But it was still really cool to see Warrior, even before finding out that he had passed away the next day. It's not like, the promo was throwaway and it just became 10 times more important because he died the next day. No, even at that time, I appreciated it. I thought it was great to see Warrior back on Raw and an amazing final appearance for the Warrior. So after that, for the Divas Championship, so even before that, AJ Lee comes out having defeated every woman on the roster at WrestleMania 30 in the Vicky Guerrero Divas Invitational. Beating them all to retain her Divas Championship, bragging about that and talking about how she was the greatest diva, greatest women's wrestler in the world, which elicited a loud CM Punk chant, best in the world, whatever. So AJ does that before being soon interrupted by Paige. Paige, the then NXT Women's Champion. I went fucking nuts, as I already hadn't before, when Paige came out. I already lost my mind several times before in this show. But Paige comes out to confront AJ and do what no one else would. Congratulate her on her WrestleMania victory. And AJ wanted none of it. She said, go back to your crumpet. I appreciate you coming out here, but you're really no match for me. How about you, face me one-on-one right now? And for a post-WrestleMania treat, I'll put my Divas Championship on the line. The crowd goes nuts, and Paige says, I want no part of it. She slaps Paige anyway, rings the bell. We have a match underway. The match went all of a minute, which was for the better, because they saved the actual match between the two for later on down the line. Paige in quick and decisive fashion, beating AJ with the page turner, which did not look too great. I didn't mind as much as many people did, but I thought it was whatever. So she hit the page turner on AJ to pick up the Divas Championship, and one of the biggest upsets in WWE history. Paige, her first night in the first 5 minutes of her premier WWE appearance, becomes the new Divas Champion. I believe that also the youngest Divas Champion of all time, and also one of the youngest champions of all time in WWE history at 21 years old. So an amazing moment. I mean, one can argue that, they shouldn't have given her the championship so soon because she's stale 2 years later. They, should have had a chase. And I could see that argument, but we're talking about just the Raw here. So as a moment, it was remarkable. I was so happy to see it. Paige was another one that was long overdue for a main roster call-up. So great to see her feud with AJ Lee, and AJ would take time off after this. So we would get that feud later on down the line on the road to SummerSlam. So after that, we had Cesaro taking on Jack Swagger, but not before being awarded the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal Trophy by Hulk Hogan, so a big endorsement from the Hulkster there. Zeb Coulter accompanying Cesaro to the ring, and he got loud boos from Cesaro for not letting Cesaro talk. Cesaro takes the mic from Zeb Coulter and says, "I'm sorry, Zeb, but I am not a Zeb Coulter guy. I'm a Paul Heyman guy." Cue the crowd losing their shiz in it again for what felt like the millionth time on the show. Not complaining, it was amazing. Out comes Paul Heyman, and the dream pairing of Paul Heyman and Cesaro commences, and then Jack Swagger comes out to Zeb Coulter's aid, trashes the trophy. That pisses off the crowd and Cesaro. We get an impromptu match between Cesaro and Swagger, which was good for what it was while it lasted. Cesaro won via countout after Jack Swagger intentionally got himself counted out. That kicked off their little mini feud going into the spring. But really, really good stuff there. It was great to see Cesaro join up with Paul Heyman. And again, it's all about the aftermath. And I talk about the aftermath a little bit here. As a moment, it was amazing. But we talk about the aftermath, it was a total flop. When they really should have just gone up with Cesaro as the baby face. And they ended up doing it a year too late, in the summer of 2015, typical WWE. And as great as it was on paper to put Paul Heyman with Cesaro, it just made no sense because people wanted to cheer Cesaro, and Paul Heyman, having advocated for the man who put the 1 and 21 at WrestleMania, was one of the most hated men in the entire company. Putting him with Cesaro was WWE's stubborn way of trying to keep Cesaro heel, when they really should have just gone with the flow and, turned him babyface. But again, that's typical WWE for you. Still a great moment, though, seeing Cesaro align with Paul Heyman, albeit for a brief period of time before they broke up that summer. And then we get to the main event, Daniel Bryan versus Triple H for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. A match that never really got underway. Daniel Bryan comes out to the ring before getting attacked by Kane, by Randy Orton, by Batista. Triple H comes out to pick up the scraps. The bell rings. The match technically starts, but it goes to a no contest. But before Evolution / The Authority can inflict any more damage, Sierra Hotel, India, Echo, Lima, Delta, The Shield. They come out to the ring. And earlier on in the evening, they were confronted by Stephanie backstage, and she put The Shield and Kane next to each other and said, despite, having your differences at WrestleMania, we need to do what's best for business tonight. And The Shield did just that, not by aiding Evolution and The Authority, but by turning on the Evolution, by turning on Evolution and The Authority. So they stand across the ring from Triple H, Batista, and Orton and Kane. Great visual that would, set up Evolution versus The Shield for Extreme Rules and Payback. Two great matches, by the way. Two of my favorite matches from that year. And instead of, kind of backing down or kind of giving in to The Authority, Triple H says, "We can't let it break down this way. This can't be a war." And when he turns right around, Roman Reigns spears Triple H right out of his boots. And just the perfect way to kind of kick off that feud, in my opinion. I mean, we talk about Triple H and Roman Reigns. Now this is going up after WrestleMania. As of this recording, the match hasn't happened yet. But these two have history dating back to that one moment when Roman Reigns speared Triple H on the post-WrestleMania Raw. And it was a great moment. The crowd went nuts for it. So the Shield fends off The Authority from the ring. Daniel Bryan hits a running knee on Triple H to end the show, standing tall with the Shield. And what a great visual to close off with for the future stars of the business. Of course, Daniel Bryan is since retired, but you have the then world champion, the two future world champions in Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, and then hopefully another future world champion in Dean Ambrose. But great segment. As I said, there really wasn't anything bad about this show. In my opinion, the 3 hours went by quickly. I was marking out for almost everything on this show, from the Shield, officially going face, to Cesaro becoming a Paul Heyman guy, to Paige winning the Divas Championship in her debut, to the Ultimate Warrior returning to Raw, to Rusev making his debut, to Adam Rose and Bo Dallas being teased for future Raw appearances, to Bad News Barrett wrestling his first match back in many, many months, RVD coming back, a tag team title match, the Fandangoing, Wyatt family scoring a victory, Daniel Bryan getting the You Deserve a chance. That's like 10 things right there. And those are only the highlights, you know? That's basically everything on this show. In my opinion, a near perfect show. And one of the many reasons why this is one of, if not my top tier favorite Raw of all time. And it's hard to argue against that. I just fucking love this show for everything that it meant to me, with the Warrior passing away the next day, the returns, the debuts, and it, to me, like any good post-WrestleMania Raw should, it felt like there was a real breath of fresh air. It really felt like there was a sense of change in the air in WWE. You know, I said the same thing about 2012's post-WrestleMania Raw and 2013 too. They continue that streak strongly with this show. It was no exception. An amazing episode from start to finish, and needless to say, well worth seeking out on the WWE Network, along with the 2012, 2013, and 2015 episodes, the post-WrestleMania editions of Monday Night Raw. So that is my review of the April 7th, 2014 edition of Monday Night Raw. And hopefully my review of the post-WrestleMania Raw from 2015 will be up on Saturday. I am not reviewing the post-WrestleMania 2016 Raw, because the whole purpose of these reviews are to kind of look back on them either a year or more later in retrospect. Doing it 2 weeks in retrospect doesn't make as much sense because I can't talk about the aftermath and the follow-up and whatever. I usually talk about like the post-WrestleMania Raws anyway. And my written reviews, by the way, of all these shows are already up on nextgearwrestling.net from when they happened. So these are my retrospective reviews. If you want to check out my reviews of these shows as they happen, go to nextgearwrestling.net and type in April 7th, 2014, that episode of Monday Night Raw. You can type in April 8th, 2013 for that review from, that post-WrestleMania Raw. April 2nd from 2012. What was last year's? Or March 30th, 2015. And then this year's is also probably up by now on the website, so check it out. But in the meantime and in between time, guys, you can find me on the socials in the description box down below, on Twitter at WrestleRant, on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.jason.matthews. Give the page and all thumbs up. And be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All support is greatly appreciated. So like I said before, guys, I'll be back on Saturday, hopefully, with my post-WrestleMania 2015 Raw review. But until then, guys, enjoy the rest of the post-WrestleMania week. I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road.